15, 1 Corinthians 12, and Brother Austin, we're going to be through about a little bit. We'll probably be 15 minutes before we get to you. Brother Austin's going to sing a special for me in a little bit. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 in your Bible, 1 Corinthians 12, and while you're looking there, I want to encourage you. The first Monday, Tuesday in August, actually Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we have a special family conference, but Monday and Tuesday, Pete and Frida Cowling and Kevin and Dawn Cowling, four Cowlings will be here. I'd like to get all the Cowlings here, but they're going to be speaking at a family conference, talking about rearing a family to serve God. And what what did they do? Nobody's perfect, and obviously it's all an act of grace, but where Mrs. Goddard and I are going to start on Sunday, and we're going to rearrange things here in the church on that Sunday, and we're going to have things specially set up for different classes. And you adult teachers, we're going to talk about that a little bit. But Sunday will be on the lot on the home, but there'll be other classes. There'll be some things just for child rearing, and if you don't have children, we'll have other great things offered for you. Then Monday night, Brother Cowling, Pete Cowling, and Kevin Cowling will be speaking. And then Tuesday midday by 11, there's going to be a luncheon. You'll have to buy into that. It'll be $7 to sign up for it. And we're going to cater just a El Pollo Loco or Roses or something good like that. And then we'll have the Cowlings on a kind of a question and answer thing. And then Tuesday night, you'll love it, and it'll be a help. And look, our homes are under attack in America, and we've got to get well trained. Our young people need to get trained how to have families. Don't wait. Why do we wait till we're nearly divorced to start figuring out what a marriage is? And we've got to work on this thing. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, we've got a lot of territory to cover tonight. If you'll follow along as I read 1 Corinthians 12, I'm going to start at verse 15. I'm not going to comment much. I could spend the whole night on this, but this is not where I'm going. This is the springboard to where I'm going. Look at 1 Corinthians 12, 15. It says, if the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, and I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if someone doesn't say hello to me when I come into the church, do I not belong in the church on Sunday? Oh no, I missed that. Verse 17, if someone sits in my pew where I always sit, am I therefore not a part of the body? That's in the Greek. You got to know a lot to get that out of there. But verse 17, if the whole body were an eye, where the hearing? And if the whole were the hearing, where were the smelling? But now, if God set the members, every one of them, in the body, and here's a great phrase, you ought to mark this in your Bible, as it hath pleased him. When you start dealing with your children if you have 2 or 3 children, somebody's going to be insecure, somebody's going to be awkward, someone's going to feel they don't fit. God puts us in the body in a way that pleases him. That insecure child, do you know that strong-willed child is built just by God? Now it's up to you to figure out how to rear them. And you just need a bigger belt. Learn from Bill Cosby. 9 feet long, 6 feet wide with hooks on it to tear the flesh off the body. That's what Bill Cosby said. We're going to go back to the old days, all right? But anyway, some of you aren't old enough to remember listening to Bill Cosby on records, but we did. That was a great pastime. But as it hath pleased him. And then in verse 19, if they were all one member, meaning a hand, an eye, an ear, where were the body? But now they'd be on that Monsters, Inc. That's what they'd be. I don't know what that is, but I heard Brother Beal talking about it. It's some movie or something. I think it's a Christian thing. But anyway, verse 20. Now are they many members, yet one body? The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more, those members, and look at this is great, those members of the body which seem to be more feeble. Now think right now, who in this room seems feeble? Never mind, don't do that. Don't look at them. They are necessary, God says. Verse 23, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable. Now he's talking about your physical body, but the illustration is the physical body. He's talking about the church. And sometimes somebody walks in, you think, I don't know if they belong here. And I hope no one ever thinks that. Because Jesus would think that of all of us. Because wrapping some cloth around a piece of dirt and putting it in a school that puts a little bit of junk in their gray matter, we're still just dirt to Jesus, except for the love of God, compared to his holiness and his glory. And so he says those that, and those members of the body, verse 23, which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. And he just goes, let me just read these next two verses. For our comely parts have no need. Though the things, the person in the church has got their, what we call everything in order and everything together. They don't have any need. But God hath tempered the body together. God put this thing together, having given more abundant honor to that part which lacked. That there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. For whether one member suffer, all members suffer with it, or one member be honored, all members rejoice with it. And he's talking about the body of Christ. Now, as we look at that, I'll refer back to a verse 2. I think you catch the idea. There's a whole bunch of different people here tonight. And on Sunday morning, it's going to get more diverse and more complex. And some of you, you worry about your children. And do your children fit? And you worry about your kids being just so. And you know what? Your kids are what they are. And obviously train them, discipline them, groom them, do all you know how to do as a parent. But God made these kids, and God made us, and God put us together, and we're here for a purpose. And we need to realize, though the world may not think we are the more honorable part of the body, God bestows more abundant honor on those parts that may not, in the eyes of the world, have that honor. And so we're all such a diverse bunch. But if you notice in verse 25, why is it so important that we give the right honor to the right people, and that we all understand we belong? Verse 25, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. We need to understand who we are and how important we are, so that there's no schism, so that nobody feels like they don't fit, and nobody feels like they don't have a place. Because there is a place. Now, sometimes we might wander through life in our career or education or whatever, and it takes a while to find our niche in society as far as employment. It might take a while. And by the way, my view of Christian education, get kids the best Christian education you can, elementary and high school, then get them the best college education, Christian college education they get, and then at 21 they can figure out what they need to do to get trained for life. I got no problem with that. Because at 21, I was just getting out of a university where nobody had any brains, certainly not the professors. But I'd had a chance to grow in grace and realize I wanted to serve God. And that's when I started preparation to serve God. And I know you young people, you get out of high school at 17, you want to be married at 19, and you want to have your life's pattern all set by 21. Nice try. I don't want to disappoint you, but God may not lay all that out for you. You may not find a blind girl in time. And so we all belong. Here's three simple statements, four simple statements. Number one, we all belong. Number two, we are all different. The toe is not the thumb, and the eye is not an ear, and we are all different. And some appear to be more honorable, or they have more abundant honor on them, but God says, no way. God says, no way, Jose. I'm sure that God says that. That's not the way it is. You can't do that. So number one, we all belong. Number two, we're all different. And number three, we view, and he didn't say this, but I'm explaining, we view life differently because we are different. Did it ever occur to you the view that your big toe has of life? That's a depressing thought. Or your armpit. There's just some bad things in life. And, that's like Fresno's the armpit of California. And if you love Fresno, God bless you, that's fine. But anyway, our perspective is different. Peter Scott's perspective is from about 10 feet in the air with a 40-foot trailer towing. You have 40-foot trailers? 48-foot trailer towing behind him all the time. That's a different perspective than somebody in their smart car or dumb car, depending on your perspective, driving the 91 freeway to work. And our perspective, you that are younger, your perspective on life is incredibly different than those that are older. And those young married people that can hardly wait for that baby, well, I'll tell you, those of us whose kids are grown, our view is really different on that. We're just glad that God gives babies to the dumb. But not really. To the ones with energy and the ones with vision and all that kind of stuff. Now, with all that being said, look over to Acts chapter 1. And I'm going somewhere, but I've got to wind the train up before it'll roll. Acts chapter 1. We're going to look quickly through 3 or 4 verses, and I've got about a 45-minute lesson I got to give you tonight. We're going to have music lessons. We're going to have Bible lessons. We're going to have church lessons. Acts chapter 1, verse 14. If you're not there, I'm going to start reading. Acts chapter 1, verse 14. These all continued with one accord in prayer and supplication with the women and Mary and the mother of Jesus and the brethren. Now, this is they had 10 days of fasting, 120 people in the upper room. They were all there with, what was the phrase? One what? One accord. They were there with one accord. Now, a minute ago, we read in 1 Corinthians 12, we're all different, our perspective's different, our personalities are different, our gifts are different. He goes on in chapter 12 and 14, talking about how many different things God gives us, and he says, as it pleased him. It pleases God to give you certain abilities and gifts, while it pleases God to give me something totally different. And it makes God happy. He's God. He made us that way. You know, some of you're on a 1,000-calorie-a-day diet and you gain weight. Others are on a 50,000-calorie-a-day diet and they lose weight. You just hate people like that. It's all right. So look on to chapter 2, verse 1. Chapter 2, verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with what? One accord in one place. And the Holy Spirit was poured out on them. So again, we read this group of people, one accord. Chapter 2, verse 46. Chapter 2, verse 46. And they continuing daily with what? They continued with one accord. So they were in one accord, and they continued in one accord. And look over to chapter 4, verse 24. You probably guess where I'm finding these verses. They all say the same thing. Acts chapter 4, verse 24. And when they heard that, they lifted up their voice to God with one accord. They'd had some problems, and they went to prayer with one accord. Chapter 5 and verse 12. Chapter 5, verse 12, and by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought among the people, and they were all with one accord in Solomon's porch. Now, all that to say, there's 2 things we're looking at tonight. Number 1, the body of believers is as different. I mean, the people in this room, or the people that will be here Sunday assembled, we are as different as the parts of your body are different. As different as my eye is to my ear, that's how different Norm Cook and Ken Peterson are. We're different. We may not even be vaguely similar. And God puts the body together in a way that pleases him. And he says there where the verse about the schism, he said that we should have the same care one for another. I'm not just supposed to like people who look at life like me. You know, Steve ought to like USC fans. And Ed Lutz ought to like UCLA fans. Now, that's the lighthearted end of things. But you know, you that have been here long enough, you know in this room, there's some differences among us. Enormous differences among us. In fact, some of us don't even like each other. But the Christian in you is to have the same care for every member of that body. Because God put them in that body in a way that pleased him. Could I throw this into your family? You need to make sure every one of your kids knows they matter just like they are. Because you have 3 or 4 children, one of them's going to be the child of the devil. you're going to wonder who's their daddy or something. No one ever says, who's your mama, do they? But I guess that's obvious, but anyway. It's anatomy issues with that one. But we're different. We are so different. And, I don't like you. I don't like you either. But we're supposed to have the same care one for another. And so Paul says, look, we are so incredibly different. And he uses your elbow to your big toe to explain how different we are. And then we look at that church in Acts. And they were all in one accord, in one place. And they continued in one accord. Now, I'm going to give you 3 words tonight. If you take notes, if you don't, that's fine. First word I want to give you is the word uniformity. Now, I don't know if it's the right word. I might have just made it up. It might not even be a real word. Don't ask Mrs. Bailey till after I'm done using it, because that's the title of my sermon tonight. Uniformity and unity and discord. Those are my 3 words tonight. I made them up, and according to Wikipedia, I could put any word in there I want. If you don't know what Wikipedia is, you're probably smarter than the average millennial. So, uniformity is, Brother Austin and some of these people are going to demonstrate uniformity. Are you ready? They had no practice. I called him up a couple hours ago and said, could you do this for me? You got it? Give us uniformity. All right, that's uniformity. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's all the soldiers in the same uniform, marching at the same cadence, and somehow in the Marine Corps or wherever, how do you get everybody to march at with the same stride? What, tall people got to shorten their legs? Got little baby steps to catch up with the short people? I don't know. Or the short people are doing these big old long, I don't know. But anyway, you can tell I wasn't in the military, right? Where I played, the little guys shot the long shots and the big guys got beat up underneath the hoop. You'd never hit a little guy out front as hard as you hit the big guy underneath, but the real men are inside. That's where real men play ball. But anyhow, now what you just heard, they were several different instruments, all playing the exact same note. Somebody said to me, and this came as a result of a conversation I had with one of our men, and we were just chatting about things, and I thought, I'd like everybody in our church to understand some things, because sometimes we mistake you and I looking at life differently from unity. Uniformity means we are all lockstep. We just heard uniformity. Now, we all know discord is wrong. Can you give me discord? All right, let's hear discord here. Was that not Amazing Grace? Who didn't recognize that? All right, that's Amazing Grace. Who doesn't want to hear it again? But now we know that that's 3 different instruments playing the same song, the same tempo, but it wasn't right. That's what we don't want in a church. That's what you don't want in your home. Was that 3 different keys you were playing it in, Jim? 2 different keys. So they're just playing in 2 different keys. You can't play 2 different keys. That doesn't work. If you heard that long enough, you'd start listening to rock music. Now, discord means we're not doing the same thing. We are not trying to blend. We're not on the same page. We're not trying to accomplish the same things. Now, unity is this. All right? Give us the same song, and this is unity. And that you can take. Now, you still got you've got 4 different instruments playing 4 different notes, I guess. But you know what they did? They did this. They said, we've got one goal. That is unity. Uniformity is, if you don't look at life like me, I don't like you. Uniformity means everybody has got to look at everything like I do. I want to preach and teach as best as I can, but you know what? Your children are your children. If you spank them, they're your children. If you don't spank them, they're your children. You homeschool them, they're your children. By the way, you want to read the New International Version? That's your business, not my business. You want to read living letters? You want to read Good News for Modern Man? Now, I will teach you that this is the Word of God. But this if we're going to be over here, this is lockstep unity. If you don't comb your hair like me, and some of you can't do that. You haven't been able to part your hair in a long time, but you don't like Taco Bell. I mean, we don't have to do that. That's uniformity. Everybody has got to think the same, act the same, respond the same. Discord, though, is even worse. Discord is every note we play is in conflict with somebody else. And in this room, we've got people who their education's different and their goals are different, and people whose work ethic. I mean, I was talking to somebody one day and said, this has been the longest week. I mean, I work. There was no rest from my job. And I said, well, how many hours do you have to work? They said, almost 30. It was everything I could do to not go, I did that Monday and Tuesday, But you know what? For them, that was a long week. It was. That's like we were at Yosemite with Josh and Carly and Matt and Esther, and with Grace and Kaylee. Well, you try walking up to a waterfall when your feet are this long, or your legs are this long like Kaylee. It's a different walk. It's a different walk when you're 58. I'm sitting there thinking I can buy the postcard. I've seen water. I can get it out of the drinking fountain. Want to see waterfall? There we go. Right there. I'm about 10 years late for all those waterfalls in Yosemite. But uniformity says we all have to like camping. Now, let's just take a survey. How many of you, there ain't no way you're sleeping on the ground? All right, my wife's hand is up. How many of you just love camping? We're different. We're different about everything. How many of you think eating healthy food is just nonsense? You ought to eat for good taste. There you go. We're just different. And now that when they played that same note, there are people who think uniformity is unity. And that's a facade. Because what they just did, you got to work pretty hard to play together every note, right? I mean, if I wanted every instrument to hit the same note through a whole song, it's not going to happen, I'm guessing. It ain't going to happen. Not with Tim here. And now I know I know I lost 2 families over a statement like this a couple years ago, so it's time I do it again. For you men to expect your wife to snap to attention every time you speak, you're nuts. You're just crazy. You know, when your feet don't stink and your breath doesn't stink and you have nail-pierced hands, maybe. But You know, and for you ladies to think every man in this room is going to be warm and fuzzy and compassionate and just want to sit and watch Jane Eyre and Anne of Green Gables with you. Now, he might, but he's only doing it out of love, or he's a femme. You know, I don't know. I shouldn't say that because I've never watched those shows. They might be great war movies. I have no idea. So in our home, we're going to be different. We are going to, in our child discipline is going to be different. To expect everybody to hit that same note every time, that is uniformity. Military tries to do that. And maybe under some dictatorships they try to do that. But we're talking real life. Discord is what we don't want. All right? He's going to be like that, and I'm going to be like this. We heard that. We're both playing Amazing Grace. No, you're both really playing carnal, Christian. But if we could accept those around us and look with favor on each one of us and understand our goals, and I'm going to explain those in a minute, that's when you get unity. And unity is when you understand what they just did when they played all the parts together. I'm going to have you do that again in a minute if you guys don't lose your lip. Keep going. I know enough about trumpets and trombones, know you have to do that. We just read a minute ago, they were all with one accord in one place, and they continued with one accord. Could I tell you a little bit more about that church? One group thought the other group wasn't paying enough attention to the widows. Right? God said they were all with one accord. Ananias and Sapphira lied about tithing, and God killed them. And God said, we're all in one accord now. No. Uniformity is we've all got to think exactly alike. Unity is we all have the same goals. And we're going the same place. When on vacation, our family, our three families were in three separate cars, but we were all going to the same cabin in Yosemite. And we didn't see each other until we met up at Walmart or Costco or something, several hours down the road to shop, load things up, and then we split again because I don't want to have to pull over every time some little kid needs to stop and use a rest stop or whatever. And they might not want to stop every time I want to stop. But we were unified. We had unity. We were all going to whatever the name of this cabin, a nice big 2-story, it was a great place up right outside Yosemite. So, but unity is this. Unity is we want to honor God. We want to love God ourselves. We want souls to be saved. We want missionaries to be sent out. We want churches to be started. We want our young people to grow up to love God. Now, you may be a Dodger fan, and I'm a Laker fan, and somebody else is an Angels fan, and I didn't even know that the Dodgers and the Angels existed. To me, baseball is something you play, not something you watch. There's got to be a lot of food to get me to watch a baseball game. I want more action than two guys playing catch. And I know some of you how many of you love watching baseball? Yeah, all over the room. My grandma used to love it too. But we're just so different. But unity is you spend your Saturday at an Angels game, and somebody else spends their Saturday playing golf, and somebody else spends their Saturday working in the yard, and somebody else spends their Saturday working on a bus at church. But we all want to see those buses run. And we all want to see Sunday school taught. And we all want to see people saved. And you know what else? We're unified on some other things. Unity is nobody's bringing another book into our church and using it in the pulpit or in the classroom. Now, if you come in on your own, and you're new, you don't know any better, then fine. God bless you. Whatever you read's fine. Unity is we're not bringing any rock music in here. Not going to have it. We're not bringing up a praise team and getting rid of our choir. We're not going to get rid of preaching and substitute teaching. See, do you know what? You that were in our school meeting, how we handle the school has nothing to do with unity. Look, here's how we handle the school. You think the widows are being neglected? Let me get some guys to help. We're going to step in and we're going to solve the problem. How can you get 300 to 1,000 people together and not have somebody looking at life different than you? And if you say, I just don't see how, pay attention. Finger, elbow. Try picking your nose with your elbow. We're different. Of course we're going to have differences. Of course, do we sell that bus or do we part it out? Or do we give it away? Don't bother me with the buses. That's why I have Brother in. What songs are we going to sing in the bus meeting this Saturday? I don't want to hear about it. Talk to Tad San Nicolas. He runs the bus meeting. That's why we have a school principal. That's why we have a choir director. That's why we have an orchestra director. Because there's just too much here. Everybody can't direct the orchestra. Unity is we're all going to make sure that people get saved by faith. Unity is, I don't want our preacher boys going off to Bible college learning covenant theology and Reformed theology. You know what? Unity is us making sure that our kids aren't having track passing out being replaced for soul winning. I want our kids going off to Bible college to be soul winners. That's a major issue. Now, whether they're soul winners and they become carpenters, or soul winners and they become computer programmers, or whether they're soul winners and become missionaries is irrelevant, because that is all according to the will of God. But we know this, we want people to get saved. And in your home, see, a blended home, and I may talk about this during our family conference, but when my mom married my stepdad, Bob, that basically raised me through junior high school years, there was amazing unity in our home. You can have unity with a stepdad if the mom lets them. If you couldn't have the will of God without everything being right, none of us would have the will of God. God majors on fixing broken plays. God is incredible. And so we think about the leader. There's a responsibility in the leader's hand. Look over to Galatians chapter 2, a familiar passage probably to most of you. When discord happens, which is going to happen, we need to bring it into harmony. Now, out of a group as big as our orchestra, sometimes Sunday night, 20, 25, sometimes, Jim, somebody's just, Michael's just been doing the trombone a little while. Maybe he hits something off. And if you've ever played a clarinet or whatever that thing is that Janelle plays, you're going to get a squawk. If you do a violin, they do things too. You know what you do? We work at fixing it. You don't quit the orchestra. James Austin says, I am done. Miss Ryan missed a note. I'm done with the orchestra. I quit. No, that's not seeking unity. That's seeking stupid. That's like the coach called a bad play, so I'm quitting the team. Well, you shouldn't have started because he's going to call the wrong play. And if you're the dad on the sidelines and you say, oh, this is the time for that, and the coach calls that, you think, oh, I'm done. I'm pulling my kid and we are done with this church. Well, the football team has nothing to do with our church. None of them are saved. So the presence of discord is assumed. You that are not married yet, and you just think, oh, this is going to be so wonderful. It will be. But there's going to be some bumps in the road. It's like getting your first car. Josiah, when my mom gave Josiah my dad's truck, oh, he was in heaven until he had to fill up both tanks. So look at Galatians. There's among the greatest of people. Galatians chapter 2, verse 11. But when Peter was come to Antioch, Paul is writing here. Now, would you say Peter's a pretty decent Christian? Preached at Pentecost, 3,000 saved, first one to bring the gospel to the Gentiles. Yeah, I'm going to say he's a decent guy. Paul, pretty decent Christian, wrote half our New Testament. But when Peter was come to Antioch, a Gentile city where there was a Gentile church going, a non-Jewish church, I withstood him to the face. So that's Paul, because he was to be blamed. First, before certain came from James. James is the pastor of the First Baptist Church in Jerusalem. Before certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. So Peter's over there at In-N-Out, burgers and monster fries with the non-Jewish people, until some people come from the big fancy church in the city. And when they were come, middle of verse 12, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision, fearing the Jews. Verse 13, and the other Jews dissembled likewise with them. They all, oh no, we can't be here with these Gentiles eating this food. And Paul said in verse 14, when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth, I said to Peter, and he just chewed Peter out publicly. I just don't know if anybody ought to get chewed out publicly. Well, then don't. Paul thought it was appropriate at the hour. Paul and Peter had unity. They did not have uniformity. And the fact is, Peter messed up. Wow. We're sinners. Shock. Could it be that among the people in this room someone might sin? Is it possible that among this number of believers that somebody in this room might on purpose do something wrong? Yeah, there's a pretty good chance, like in the next 2 hours. I mean, how many of you started out a day to fast and you didn't get to breakfast? I'm not asking you to raise your hands or come forward. There's not enough room at the altar. There's days we do wrong. Someone says, man, they really hurt my feelings. And someone says, oh, they didn't mean it. You know, if I walk by and say, yeah, they probably meant it. Really? Well, people are stupid. People do wrong. I think they regret it. I don't think they'll do it again. But at the moment they made a statement, it was thoughtless. It was, if you read my morning moments, that was one of my morning moments this morning. Man, Brother Henry, have you ever said something to a customer you shouldn't have said? You know, and glad you said it? And so Paul looking over there, Peter and a bunch of the Jews eating with a bunch of the non-Jews, having a good time. And then some people from James come, the big church in the city, and they come out, and all of a sudden, Peter, and he gets away from the table. Let's go over to the Jewish table there. We're just with the Jews. And then all the Jews moving over there. And Paul's saying, what is wrong with you, man? But they were all in one accord, in one place. You know, Peter really did want people saved. He was preaching everywhere. And Paul did want churches started. And if we're not careful, when discord happens instead of saying, we got to fix, sometimes fixing it is just forgiving it. If 99% of the time the person's on track and you hit that 1% when they blew it, they're probably not going to hit it again for another long time. Forgive them. And unity, yeah, we're different. We do look at life differently. How we handle bus ministry and Sunday school. I had somebody today tell me, he said, when I first started coming to this church and you talked about men not hugging women and not being close to people, and he said, I just thought you were really wacko. He said, after all these years serving the Lord and being in the ministry, I realized we've got to be so careful. We're in a crazy world. But see, back when he first started coming, I couldn't slap him and say, trust me, man, I know, just walk in line. He'll figure it out. First time somebody he loves gets in trouble with the police. For any leader to insist on lockstep obedience, that's Gestapo-ish. And it is also unrealistic. For us to allow discord to continue is really yucky. That's why, are my kids going to sin? You that have children, you say, I've taught them that over and over. Yeah, and you're going to have to teach it to them over and over. They're not bad kids. They have parents. Caleb's twins might not be fully groomed yet. They might have a couple of more years of training. If you listen to our child rearing CDs, the birth to about 8 years old is character training. What's from 8 years old to 12 or 14? Character retraining. Didn't they get it the first time? Yeah, but they forgot. And so unity that expects never to have discord is very unrealistic. And if you, and a lot of this, I want you to understand, if you don't see things like I do, I don't want you to think you're disloyal. As long as we got the same goals. I would say Ray Mahee and I are very close. But I'll tell you, we probably really look at life differently, right, Ray? I mean, I'm guessing. We do. Other than the fact that we both like Diet Pepsi, we're pretty different. But, you see, it is, to expect uniformity is unrealistic. Everybody's got employees. You got to treat each employee differently. This one, he can produce a lot, and this one, he can produce some, but it's good some. But he's not going to produce what this one does. And I like the world where this one gets paid a lot more. That's called real living, not this communist world we're coming to. And then there's some who don't produce, you fire them. And you can't do that anymore either. But anyway, so business, home, you're going to have a child that is going to, you're going to think, oh, this kid, just keep teaching them. Some are going to catch it just like that. And some are going to catch it just like in 20 years. They're not bad. What's bad is having unity, and then one little discord happens. And you say, oh, I'm done. I'm just done. Oh, so you're going to find a place where there's no discord? You're going to have to go to an island just by yourself. And you heard the story about the guy who was in the maroon, he was on the desert island. He finally got found, rescued, all by himself for years. And there's 2 little buildings. And he said, what's that building? He said, that's my church. Really? What's that building? He says, the church I used to go to. You can walk out on that girl or that guy you're married to because you know what you're going to find? Another human being. Yeah. Unity is, let's have the same vision, let's have the same goals, let's have the same dreams, and know that on occasion, number one, we're going to look at life differently because we're different. Number 2, we're going to mess up. This church to me, is the greatest thing that's ever happened in my whole life. I've never been around anything like it. But that we are going to always look the same and act the same, and that no one here is going to step out of line, that is a stupid thought. We will be different, and at times we will be sinners. But if we can all keep our goals right, we can have, can you do that once more? Unity, the right one. If we will get our goal right, I'm sorry, I waited too long for this. This is what a good family should be and what a good church should be. All different, but they're working to blend together. And that's what a good church should be. What a work at blending. I want to help Baptist boys. I want to help Blue Denim and Lace, but I'm not going to their meetings. Let's pray. Father, bless us tonight as we go. Thank you for your church, for the great families here. May we strive for unity, though we will not always have that perfect uniformity. May we blend our skills and our gifts, and may our children know they're loved, and may our ministry reach out to jails and rest homes and the hospitals and the buses. And God, there's so much to be done. And we will, on occasion, have discord because we sin or because we just think different. Help us, Lord, to strive for that unity of vision, that unity of goals and dreams, that we might accomplish much for you, Father. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, God bless you. Have a great night.